Hey planner friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, my name's Kate and I'm your host of Functional Planning. In today's video, we're going to cover the planner hops that Kate took in 2024 as we review our planner systems before selecting one for 2025. If you're excited and you want to hear my thoughts on the planners that I used this year, go ahead, grab some popcorn, maybe a little drinky poo, and let's go. Alright guys, we're going to start at the beginning, but before I get started, I just want to say, full disclosure, there were a lot of planner hops in 2024. I'm going to go through this. These are my notes, but I just wanted to say that I learned a lot about myself, a lot about how I plan, a lot about what works for me, and a lot about what doesn't. And 2024 was the year of me experimenting with new sizes and new layouts, and I hope that this will be beneficial for you. I'm going to flip through each planner as I go through it and kind of talk about what I liked, what I hated, and ultimately why I hopped. Okay, so I said I was going to start at the beginning, so that's what we're going to do. This time last year, I was in the Hobonichi Techo Cousin. If I mispronounce that, don't come for my life. I've heard it pronounced a million different ways, but that's what I was using. And I ordered this planner to see what the hype was about. And ultimately was really happy when I was filling it out. There were some things I loved, some things I didn't like, but this is what I ended up using. I have a terrible habit of backdating things. So I did end up going back through and backdating a lot of these pages. But ultimately, this is what I was using in October. You can see my planning style's a little bit different than it is now, but it was working for me. The other planner I had hopped from to this was a half-letter disc. So I liked that it was all in one book. It made me happy, and that's just kind of how we rolled. So full disclosure, one of the things that I do when I don't end up using a planner fully is I use a lot of it for testing pages. Highly recommend holding on to old planners and using them for testing pages so you can make more informed decisions. So you can see in October I really started using this, getting a feel for the paper, how it worked. Finally kind of hit my stride middle to end of October. Had lots of fun playing in washi in different colors and different layouts, and carried that in through November when my 2024 planner started coming. In December 2023, I got a new planner in the mail that actually had December, so I ended up hopping out of this and into that because I was so excited. But other than that, the majority of these pages is unused. But again, it was a test planner. It was to see what I liked. I think I ordered it when it finally went on sale, so that I could just play around and see what the hype was about. So there's some journaling pages in there that I'm not going to show you because it's kind of personal, but you can see that I did start kind of experimenting, playing with I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. There's a very specific Tombow marker that starts with the letter F that I cannot pronounce. And I'm terrible at it, still terrible at it. But just playing around to see what I liked, what I didn't like, and ultimately to do my 2024 planner lineup brain dump thing. There's a couple more pages that got used, but generally I was just using it for time blocking, prepping Thanksgiving, that kind of thing. All right, so this brain dump was what I was doing. I think I did it around November when I was trying to figure out what I wanted for the next year. Okay, so before I get into the 2024 planner lineup, let me talk about what I liked about this planner, what I hated about this planner, and why I ultimately hopped out of it. I was not a big fan of the soft cover. I really wanted a hard cover. I was okay with the format. It was working. There wasn't anything I really hated other than how much I wasted it, and I wish I had gotten it earlier in the year. Ultimately, I ended up hopping out of it because it was the end of the year. The planner was over, and I wanted a new one. So I decided that I was going to do the hardcover version, the Hobonichi Hon, for 2024, and that was going to be my master planner. I also ordered a common planner from SterlingInk. My idea was that I was going to use it for content planning and kind of a function of planning book. I was trying to navigate social media at the time. I also ordered the Hobonichi Weeks because it was cute and I liked it. as well as the PaperTess Weeks that was on the way from Germany by this point. I also had a cloth and paper spiral that was part of my sub box, and I was using a SterlingInk notebook for journaling at the time. That is 2024 lineup that I started with. The other thing I ordered for 2023 to start playing around with lineups was the Hobonichi Weeks. And the Hobonichi Weeks I had never used before. I'd seen online. Everyone was raving about it. And so I wanted to know what the big deal was. And it gets here and I open it up and the paper is yellow. I am not a fan of yellow paper. It instantly made me not want to use it. I know it's better for your eyes and that's why they do it, but I just couldn't get behind it. So the Hobonichi Weeks ended up being unused for me for 2023. What I did end up using it for was testing out and drawing out some designs for the PaperTess weekly notebook to evaluate if I wanted to use that going into 2024. Ironically, I did end up ordering a Hobonichi Weeks for 2024 and thought, okay, you can get past it. Maybe it's just a, first time use kind of thing because the cover was so pretty and I ended up giving it away to my daughter. And she ended up not using it either. So learned a big lesson on this one. Not for me. Cute covers, lots of options. I just not a fan. Okay, so these are the planners that I started out with in 2024. Okay, so we have the SterlingInk Common Planner, the Hobonichi Hon. This is an A5, the cloth and paper spiral bound, the SterlingInk Weeks horizontal full year, and the PaperTess weekly notebook. I want to stop here for a second and just say that Catherine over at SterlingInk makes beautiful planners. I am not hating on her planner or the Hobonichi in any way. These are just experiences that I had, and everybody has to make a decision for them. So while these might not have been right for me, they may be right for you. Don't think this is me hating on SterlingInk. I'm currently in a SterlingInk. I also really, really love the Hon. I love the cover. There's so much to love about these planners. Okay, so I thought this was going to be my everyday carry. And while I loved the Hobonichi cousin, one thing I could not stand was this red box up here. And then in the months, also had this red all the way down. It was very unappealing to me, so that's why I decided to use the Common Planner. It sounds like a silly thing, and it probably is a silly thing, but it mattered to me. The Common Planner does not have that. The Sundays don't have anything on them. So I got this planner, I set it up the way that I thought I was going to set it up. Because I didn't have some of the, I guess, other colors on the page or whatnot, and because I was still using a lot of gray at the time, I felt like I couldn't see what was happening, and so I didn't end up using this past January. If you see things in here, it's from where I was like long range planning or where I was like trying to pick it back up later in the year. Ultimately, I did not use it. I ended up making like one spread, maybe two. Okay, I lied. There's a couple in here. But just trying to get a feel for the paper, get a feel for the system. And again, I was using all that gray and I couldn't tell what was on one page and what was on another. I did end up picking it back up later in the year, but you can tell. So like here, you can't tell where the highlight is versus the stuff on the following page. And that was really bugging me. So as I kept going through, I said, no, I'm done. I can't do this. And honestly, I thought I was a relationship with this kind of paper because I was having a similar experience in the PaperTess Weeks. I felt like there was a lot of white space on the page when I was planning. I felt like I was wasting space because there was just so much room. And I do think it's important with these types of planners that you find your Goldilocks size, if you will, the one that fits you just right. And if you're only putting a couple things on the page each day, sometimes it can feel like a lot of wasted space. I mentioned the ghosting. It was just driving me crazy. So that's the A5 Saga for this planner. Like I said, mostly unused. It was a lovely planner. It was just too big for me. So I ordered the Hobonichi Hon because I thought I just want the Hobonichi Weeks with a hardcover, right? Makes sense. But what I found is the same issues with the SterlingInk. I found a lot of the same ghosting issues. I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. So like I said, this is just mostly test pages. There were a couple pages I used in the back, but nothing super important, which sucks because the cover was so pretty. I really loved that. The problems that I saw with these planners were mainly around ghosting on the pages, feeling like I used not enough of the book to make it worth it. I have been a half letter planner or an A5 planner for a very long time, so I really thought that these sizes were going to work well for me, but ultimately they did not work out, and so I had to say thank you, but no thank you. So this is the planner that I was convinced was going to solve all of my problems. I ended up using it for the majority of the first quarter. I did not end up setting up the initial pages because I could never figure out exactly what I wanted to use them for. Again, I was new to this, but I immediately used it starting in December because this particular year that she released, she did include the weeks for December, so you could go ahead and start practicing, which is why I put down the cousin. So at the time I saw people online that were using these really cool, colorful, clear stickers, and I wanted to do it, so I started using that. So I used it for December, January, February, and then by March I was just kind of done. And we'll get into that in a minute. But I did go ahead and pre-plan out, April, because I was planning ahead. But after that, I really didn't use it very much. So we all have to start somewhere. So hopefully this will encourage someone. So this is the very first week in me attempting to use this, and I think it's hideous. Someone else may love it, but I was not a fan. So remember the weeks layout that I mentioned? I was practicing to make sure I liked the layout. Oh, this is it side by side. I don't know if I can fit both in the frame. I will try. I did, very much plan out, and this was a very conscious decision. It wasn't an impulse buy. I thought this was going to be awesome. I did change some of the layout once it got here and I was playing with it, but I did really, really enjoy this planner. So I'm going to put this yellow paper away before I cringe. The second week was much prettier. I actually think I posted this one. I think this was one of my very first posts of this year. And I love the little flowers, and I was very into the icons and the clear tape at the time. This worked really, really well for me. And over time, I got, less into stickers after Christmas. I tend to get very, very minimal in January because I just want a clean slate. I want clean spaces. But it was kind of fun to carry around through December and have the fun little Christmas trees and stuff. I thought the spreads were really pretty. And then I got into January and actually really did not like this mustard color at the time, but here we are. I like it now. So as the months go on, you can see things got busy as we got back into work and school, and it was serving my needs at the time. That made me really happy. So I kept using it. You can see that I definitely gave up on the big colorful stickers, but that's okay. I tend to be very functional, and if it comes down to it, I need my planner to function before I need it to be pretty. So this is kind of when I started getting a little done with the paper. So some things that I learned while I was in this planner, the pen mattered a lot. And when I was using darker ink, I didn't like it as much as when I was using the lighter ink. These are written with a Energel, I'm going to mispronounce this, Klena, and it was like a 0.38 pen. Really loved that. But when I was using the darker inks, I just didn't like it. That pen preference changed throughout the year. I now use something that is definitely dark ink. But again, this is my first time using a PaperTess Designs notebook. It's relatively new to using the paper itself. The other thing was that I primarily use gray in a lot of my layouts. And this is going to be a common theme that I'll see through the first quarter of I can't tell what's ghosting and what's gray. So one thing I found much, much later in the year was that when I use colors other than gray, I had a lot more clarity on what was going on in my weeks. Ultimately, I hadn't figured that out at this point, but as school started picking up and things started getting busier with the kids and my husband changed jobs, I definitely needed more visibility in my time schedule. So this just wasn't cutting it over here. Used to, I could just say, am I working from home or am I in the lab today? And it didn't matter. But it started to very much matter with, kids and pickup schedules and all of that. So anyway, ultimately, like I said, I loved this planner. I didn't use hardly any of it. After the first quarter, there's a couple can I repurpose this for social media kind of test pages, but generally it was a first quarter love, and then we moved on. I had a little plot twist in January and ordered the Creffective Paper 2024 physical notebook because honestly, it was cute. And honestly, I saw another planner do it, and I loved her spreads and I've been following her for a long time. So it's like, if Julie can do it, I can do it. So shout out to Plan to Create for this particular planner hop. The paper's great. I love how smooth it is. It is slightly yellow for my taste, but ultimately what I did not like about this planner was the layout that it came in. So I ended up backdating to see if I could make it work. And I think I actually used this actively for 2 weeks in February when I felt so out of control. Okay, 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks in February. I felt very, very out of control. I didn't have a time schedule in here, and I am just not a horizontal planner. I don't know why I keep trying to make horizontal planning happen, but it's not going to happen, Kate. You're a vertical planner. You know this about yourself. So anyway, that's the short version of the Creffective paper physical notebook. Like I said, if you're a horizontal planner, this might be awesome for you. The cover is luxuriously soft, and it is a hardcover. So you don't have to actually put anything on it. So anyway, again, another planner that's beautiful. I loved it, but it just didn't work out for me and my needs. So I mentioned that I had bought 2 SterlingInk planners at the beginning of this video. And this was the N2 or Weeks size horizontal layout. Kate, you just said that you're not a horizontal planner. Why would you buy a horizontal planner? This was designed for me to use it for wellness planning. So it was going to be okay. I wasn't using this to manage my schedule. So I was basically taking the quarterly side and putting my goals in for my wellness, and then using the quarterly section to the other quarterly section to actually check off my habits, which clearly I died. That didn't happen. I was using the monthly spreads to capture a win of the day, weigh-ins, when I was doing weekly assessments, how I was sleeping, just to kind of keep me encouraged, to keep me going. You see how well this worked. Honestly, I did really, really well in January. I actually did this for 30 days. I logged every single thing I ate, everything I was doing, and the goal was honestly weight loss. And I did make some progress, and this was really great. And then at the end of January, literally the 31st of January, I stopped and was like, whoa, this is too much work for me. My brain just was not picking it up. I wasn't coming back to it. And then the daily pages back here were supposed to be for like journaling my thoughts, right? So it's supposed to be a very private planner that I wasn't sharing with anybody. Like I said, I did really, really well in January. I did come back to it in May briefly. I was trying to see if I just wanted a week-sized notebook to capture some things. That lasted for like less than a week. And then in September, I did it again as part of a September situation that we will cover here in a few minutes. So in 2 weeks, lovely planner. The intention behind it was good, but ended up going with a different system. Similarly, in May, I got this guy because I was like, okay, I really love this cover. I bought all 3 versions of this for Hobonichi this year. And I used it in May as a wellness check-in. I'd never used an A6 before. So I thought, okay, maybe just one day a page. It's small enough I can just log food and my activity and it'll be great. So I did do that, and it worked really well in May. And you're going to see a common theme here. I hit my 30-day mark and I stopped, hard stop. So I'd never played with an A6. Ultimately for this one, it was just too small and I got tired of carrying around another notebook. Another planner first that happened in March was personal rings. This is a story. So this is my personal ring setup that I had in March, and I am a creature of habit when it comes to backdating. So I'm going to flip through this while I talk. So I backdated to January so I could test the ghosting on the paper. If you're not familiar, cloth and paper, their inserts do not have ghosting. It's lovely paper. So this is from Cloth and Paper, and I went to this size because it was very similar to that week size that I felt was fulfilling my needs, and started using it in March. And I will say this is my longest running planner size of the year. So in March, Carissa, in all her Instagram glory, she convinced me. Actually, she had no idea who I was, and I was following her rings posts religiously at the time. But she was a horizontal planner and I'm a vertical planner. So I went with the vertical inserts for personal size. And they worked really well for me. This is what I stuck with the majority of the year. You'll see some variation throughout this flip, but it worked, like I said, it worked really well. Was super happy when it got here, very excited. This thing went with me everywhere. I had declared planner piece. You guys know I don't use that word, but I had declared it. As we went through, you know, the busiest season of the year with school and everything, it held up, and I was like, okay, great, we're gonna make it. Get to May, everything's great, and then keep going, and I'm just waiting. I'm waiting on the hop, right? Well, the hop started happening around June, which doesn't necessarily make as much sense. I did have a daily test page crisis in May, so I had mentioned that I was using the A6 to capture wellness. Well, I started trying to use the insert a week on 4 pages to capture that, and then I hop back and forth between, do I just want a daily page? So we had a daily page crisis. I believe it was around June that I started thinking, hey, this is going to be a little too narrow for when we start heading back to school. So I have a lot of half-hourly events too, but you know, I kind of kept with it all the way through the month and just kept going. So you can kind of see I was using a lot of different, you know, styles, just kind of exploring what was working and what wasn't. But these weekly inserts, they were doing the most, right? They were doing the dang thing. So I really, really loved this layout. I really enjoyed having times, having tasks, having it kind of all in one place to have that bigger overview. But I was struggling with needing a daily insert. So I tried to make these work. They weren't working for me. So you'll see when I get to September, I finally decided to actually try a full daily page. And those ended up working really well. But I love the August spreads. They made me happy. I did try some different methods throughout this. So I tried the Alistair method, which is this guy over here. It's task tracking by week. And then, so I tried that for a couple weeks. I don't know why I tried a horizontal layout, maybe just to reaffirm that I don't like it. And then ended up right back into my hourlies, or my weekly schedule. So, I will say that, I am still using this planner, not necessarily in the same way. So this is my archive. You guys have seen the green cypress. I will stop flipping through that. So between March, well, I would say so this one I started in March. At the end of March, I also started using personal wide. And I was playing around with which one is going to be better for me in terms of spacing. So, oh, yeah, April, duck 8. So this one is just a little bit wider and gave me a little bit more room to write, which I did like. So I started playing with these layouts. Let me show you side by side. So you can see that this has one more box on the column and is just slightly wider here to actually write. So I did hop back and forth between personal wide between the months of April and August. And that's largely because I couldn't, from week to week, I needed the extra space. I didn't need the extra space, and it was maddening. And so I had 2 setups fully ready. There's a lot of backdating. July, apparently I was in the other planner, because I think I did my monthly setup and then swapped. Sorry, that was June. And then I think in July I was in this one. So some months I was in one, some months I was in the other. Sometimes it was 1 week, sometimes it was just, you know, it was very random how I decided to flip back and forth. I was really having decision paralysis. This is the same week that I was trying that Alistair method. So I guess I was trying it here and then comparing it to the other planner. So this is the exact same layout, just in the wide. At the same time, I was playing with the daily inserts, and I thought, okay, if I have a daily insert with a timeline, then I don't need your overarching week. Tried that, had a planner crisis, had a little baby panic attack. It was not for me. So like I said, I really did like using the personal wide. I liked using the personal, but at the end of the day, the personal ended up winning the day, and the personal wide just kind of it's hiding. And I think I made that decision in August. So that was the archive folder. I have an archive folder, and then I have the actual planner. So this is the actual planner. With the last time that I used it. So this was August, yeah, end of August. But there were some really cute spreads in here. I think you guys saw them over on Instagram. Just some really cute beachy theme stuff. I know people like planner flips, so I was showing the cute beachies. Anyway, all right, so that's my personal wide saga. But the personal rings lives on. Lives on in Cyprus. So the ash color here is my my archive for the months that have already passed, and then this guy is the current playlist, if you will. So it's got dailies in it. This is where I started incorporating my habit tracking into my days, which was kind of nice. And then let me actually center that. Hello. It has the weeks. There was another pivot back to trying to use the Creffective paper layout since I was using the times in my days. It was okay. It was okay. I missed my daily or my weekly schedule. So I very quickly flipped back to the weekly schedule layout. But I feel like these were minor pivots compared to changing complete systems. And I just want to have a moment for the September spread because it's so pretty. So personal's tiny, but it can be done even with a busy schedule. And that kind of brought me to October, which is all set, ready to go. Love the setup. And then I have the sticky note dumping ground still in place. I never actually reconciled October in this planner for other reasons. So I do still use the personal rings. Actually, in making this video, it made me really miss using this and touching this every single day instead of just having it for reference lists. So I've already made 13, 14 planner hops this year. Why not go back to something that was working for at least 6 months? So this one was near and dear to my heart this year, and not going anywhere anytime soon. I'm just trying to figure out how to marry two systems. So this brings me to the B6 saga that we've been going through here lately. So I actually bought this B6 planner in the middle of the year, and I bought it. I filled out the months. I went through, I backdated everything, and I did, this was back in May. I was like, ooh, I kind of like this size. This is kind of nice. Let me keep going. And then I just hated it. And when I just could not get into a good rhythm. So the idea was I could do all my time blocking here. And then back here, I can go through and do wellness assessments and write what I'm doing. And it was the perfect like column by column spread. This went okay for a little while. Then I just, I couldn't. It was not working for my brain. It didn't feel right. I think I was just having a really hard time with this paper and the ghosting at the time. We're going to come back to this. Minor side tangent since we're here. I did get the Traveler's Notebook in the June cloth and paper sub box, and this is super fun. I had never tried a Traveler's Notebook before and was open to the idea. I ended up using this for just day adventures. So if I was going like into DC, or as we were doing college tours and that kind of thing, I just had it with me instead of taking an entire planner, just to kind of try it out. We like to try things. And while it's not for me, it does work well for just a day trip. I kind of see what the hype is about, but this is a Pocket Plus size. So it's not your standard traveler's notebook size. They just call it a traveler's notebook because of the style with the bands. She's cute. She was fun, but definitely not something I could do long range planning in. Okay, the next planner I'm going to go over is the planner that came in my sub box. I have been a Cloth and Paper subscriber for a long time. Love their products, and this is the first one that I couldn't find hardly anything about to love. And that sounds a little harsh, but let me explain. This is the layout in the planner. I am not a person who jives well with a horizontal layout. So I held on to it instead of reselling it in hopes that I would figure out something that I could plan. And I had thought about using it as a content planner, but life was lifing and I never got around to actually playing with it. They release a spiral planner in their box every single year. This November, they're actually doing an academic insert, which makes me really excited. And I think I actually will use it. My biggest complaint about this, other than the layout, was the binding being covered, so you can't fold it back on itself. That really bothered me. If you have a spiral book, like it pops back up when you try, and I didn't like it. You may love it, that's fine. Ironically, I did end up buying the vertical layout of this planner and used it for 6 months. The vertical layout in this planner looks like this. And so what I ended up using it for was work. I could have a to-do list every day, then I'd use Saturday and Sunday for like a weekly checklist or things coming up next week. And it worked really, really successfully for me. The only reason I hopped out of this was because they released their academic inserts for Cloth and Paper, and I really loved that format, and it worked much better for me from a time management perspective. We have to be very specific about the things that we're doing every day, so I had to get it to a blank page. So this is what I hopped out for, so that I could use this for like no kidding, have to get done, probably should do, or recurring tasks, and then things that popped up throughout the day and that had to be taken care of so I could allocate my time appropriately. And then I had this whole column for the next week and checklist and all of that. So this worked really well. I'm still in this. I can't show you more than that because it's, sensitive work information, but I do plan on continuing this on. And this is the format that the spiral bound notebook is going to be in for 2025 for them. So really excited. The folio is clay, if you're wondering. I told you she was making a comeback, and here she is. So this is the B6 full year Sterling Ink Planner. And we've had a relationship this year in terms of, we bought her in May. We ordered it, we filled it out, and we did not like it. I'll be perfectly honest. The things I did not know at that time about the ghosting and the highlighting played a big part, but it did fill her out. But I picked this back up in September. And the reason I picked it up was not for planning. Let me be abundantly clear. The reason I picked it up was because Catherine launched her planner lineup for 2025, and I wanted to know what all this B6 Slim nonsense was about. I had never heard of the size, and I was intrigued. So I wanted to see how much space that actually was. And so I ended up coming in here and drawing out on the page where the paper edge would be, where the grid area would be, based on the dimensions I saw online. My thoughts at the time were get a B6 Slim notebook, not a planner, just a notebook, so you can keep your wellness notes in there. So I started just using it as a, let me see what I can do in this space. Let me test some things out. I don't know if I've mentioned it. If I have, I apologize for repeating myself, but big fan of using existing planners to test out things before making new planner decisions. You can see I left that space blank that would not be there on a B6 except for this one little thing. So I started playing around with it and seeing how I liked it, how it was working for me. And then I just never stopped using it. I just kept going, and I'm still going to this day. Here's some of the spreads that I was just kind of playing around with. So that's kind of how this happened. It was one of those happy accidents, and I just never stopped, honestly. just kept going. So like this is this week. And it was the end of September through now. So it's been about a month of me playing around with this, and I'm loving it so far. So when the daily pages started working, you know, as we do, we, you know, experiment with other things. And I went back and I set up the month and was like, why did I hate this again? And then I set up October, and November's not set up yet because I haven't done that. I'm going to film it for you guys. But when I started this in the end of August, early September, I started at the end of September and I backdated just to kind of see. I was like, oh, okay. And I remember the moment that I was like, oh, that's what's happening. So as I was filling this out, I was like, oh, I remember I didn't like the highlighting on there. This was the week that I figured out October 1st of this year. That's how long it took me to figure out the gray thing on the page. And then it was because my husband was like, why don't you just use a different color marker? And I was like, what? He goes, if you use a different color marker, then you'll be able to see. Now, my husband is he's not super planner nerd thing. And I was like, I'm in this community. What are you talking about? I know what I'm doing. Well, hate to say it and admit it, but he was right. So when I started using this darker color, I didn't have the issues. And then the next thing I noticed is that the more I started filling up the page, I wasn't having the issues. Take it for what you will. My recommendation, if you're using this type of paper, this calligraphy type paper, filling up the page helps. Using darker highlighters actually helps you to be able to differentiate between ghosting. So as soon as I put down my gray marker, I really didn't have an issue. Like this one's, it's more of a taupe than a gray. So yeah, that brings me to this week that I also have not planned. But so that's my kind of story behind how this happened. And it has allowed me to be able to put the things that I need in every day, a to-do list, a schedule, so I can just focus on one page. So that is something I'm really loving. I do miss my rings though. I miss my personal rings. So we will see. So you're asking, how did the B6 Slim Planner for 2025 happen? Kate, tell me about that. What happened? So let me kind of get back to that. So this is the mock-up page I did for the B6 Slim. Again, I took that margin off on both sides and just planned a week. I think I don't even know what week I used, but just kind of planned out a week for if I only had this much space, what would that look like? And as soon as I did it, I was like, huh, interesting. Well, what does that look like in a week's? Because this is how my brain operates. And so I did it in a week's. And I went back and forth a lot. I'm not going to lie. I went back and forth a lot on which one I liked better, the week's version or the B6 Slim version. And the B6 Slim actually ended up winning. So that's what I am planning on using for 2025. And hopefully I do not hate that decision, but I mean, we've already hopped so many times. I could change my mind by January. I reserve the right to change my mind by January. But as of right now, I'm going to be setting up a B6 Slim planner. Now, will that be my everyday carry? To be determined. It could be a long range planner that I keep everything in and then just take my rings with me. I have no idea exactly what I'm doing yet. But so if you're curious what a week's vertical layout filled out looks like, this would be it. I had to draw it, but this is pretty close. And then a B6 Slim would be something like that. So this has the weeks has 6 boxes wide for the weeks. The B6 Slim is 7 boxes wide, and then the B6 is 8 boxes wide. All right, so just to recap, I started the year with a cloth and paper spiral in A5, an A5 Hon, an A5 SterlingInk Planner, a week size SterlingInk Planner, and a week size PaperTess Designs notebook. Throughout the year, we hopped to the Creffective paper for just a few weeks. We ended up using an A6 for about a month for wellness planning. We had a mid-year hop in July from the spiral bound to the academic half letter. We had the battle of personal rings versus personal wide from about March until August. We had the intermittent B6 love, hate, love, hate, love, hate relationship. The everyday carry went from PaperTess Designs, personal rings. Personal rings got an upgrade to the cypress cover and ultimately hopped to the B6 for an everyday carry. So I'm ending 2024 and the half letter disc academic insert for work, the personal rings in cypress for a reference planner, and B6 for everyday carry with wellness included. We went through all of this today, so I hope that some of my insights and some of my experience this year you guys can use when selecting your 2025 planners. It was not by no means an easy process, but I did learn a lot. I learned that I don't need to use a gray highlighter. I learned that ghosting's okay as long as I fill the page and use appropriate colored markers. I learned that I like tinier planners than I ever thought I would. And I learned that the ability for me to keep my personal life together in one place should also include my wellness and not try and track that separately. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to let me know below if any of the pain points that I assessed in my own planning system were helpful for you. Let's have a conversation about it. If you have any burning questions, go ahead, reach out. I'm happy to make additional videos as needed to help clarify anything. Don't forget, I want to be planner friends with you. So go ahead, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, and follow me across other social media platforms so we can continue the planner conversation beyond just this video. Have a great day, guys. I'll see you next time.